Okay, so whilst you're trying to install Fedora 17 onto your USB stick, and you may come across an automatic partitioning error. It'll tell you that you don't have enough memory on your USB stick to make this partition, which may not necessarily be true because you may be using an 8GB memory stick, so maybe a bit curious why it's having trouble with only 4. So what you need to do is, we'll click OK, and then it'll finish examining. We'll go back and use a manual, more of a manual method to try and partition your drive properly. So we'll wait for that to finish. Okay, now that's finished, we'll then click back and go back to our installation methods. Now, what you have just been trying to use, what you've just tried to use is use all space, which hasn't worked. So now we're going to go down and create a custom layout. Okay, so select custom layout and then select next. And you'll be presented with the same screen. Make sure that your hard drive within your laptop is on the left hand side under data storage devices, and on the right hand side your USB stick is there, and select it as the bootloader as well. Once you've done that and you're sure that your USB is here on the right hand side, select next and then it'll examine. Okay, now you'll be presented with the next stage. Here are both your internal hard drive and your external USB stick. What we're going to do is delete the original partition. So what we do is select that and then select delete in your bottom right hand corner. If you're happy to do that, make sure you have selected your USB stick. You know it's your USB stick based on the size of the memory here, so that's 7.2 gig, and this is obviously 476 gig. Okay, so it's fairly clear. Delete the partition off your USB stick. Okay, so now we have all 8GB free. So now we're going to manually create our partition now. So select this. I'll cancel that. So select your USB area that's free, and what we're going to do now is click create. Okay, we're going to create a standard partition and then click create. Then you'll be presented with this box, add partition. So you need to select the // make sure that the file system type is ext4, and you deselect your hard drive so only your USB stick is selected, and then put in here the size that you want to partition. Now this is going to be our biggest partitioning area because we're going to install all our software onto it, so we need to make it fairly big. So as we have 8 gig, I'll allocate delete that, I'll allocate 7250. Okay, you'll notice that I'm not actually using all the memory stick. This will be clear just in a few seconds. So now you've allocated that, click OK, and then you'll see that your USB stick has a partition of 7250 with a mounting point there and the ext format for there. Now with our free space, if you double click that, an add partition box comes up again, and this time you need to leave mount point alone, we're not changing that, go into file system type and select swap. And similar step as last time, deselect the hard drive and type in here the remaining size. So here we have 715. So in here we need to leave 1 megabyte spare, so we'll put 714 in. Once you're happy with that, click OK. Now, depending on your USB stick and how it's formatted or the size of your USB stick, you may have more memory. So if you've got 16 gig, you may want to allocate 14 gigabytes or 15 gigabytes to the ext format and allocate 1 to 2 gigabytes to swap. That's up to you, as long as you leave 1 megabyte free. If you select your entire memory stick there, you can look up there and that shows you a summary of how your USB stick is partitioned. Okay, now we can select next. Okay, now we want to write changes to your disk, making sure that you've backed up all of your information off that USB stick before you push this button, because you will lose everything on it. So I'm happy because I've backed everything up, so changes. Okay, and at the top there now you'll see that it's now writing onto the USB stick. Each of these steps generally take about this may take about a few minutes. Okay, once it's finished examining and writing, well, beginning to, you'll be presented with Install Bootloader onto this device. What you do, leave it as it is, and in the bottom right hand side, just select Next. Okay, this is the beginning of Fedora 17's installation. So this step will take approximately 15 to 20 minutes. So after that time, I will then continue with the video. Once the Fedora tool installer bar is finished, you then you'll be given this screen. What you then need to do is click Reboot. When you click Reboot, your machine will obviously restart, but this time instead of rebooting from the CD, it will be booting from your USB stick. What you can do is, once it's booted back from the USB stick, you don't need to select anything, it will automatically give you this. Now that's your selection to select either Windows or Fedora. So Fedora's default with your USB stick in, and wait for Fedora to begin as it's doing now. Okay, now we've still got the disk in and your USB stick. You'll be given this screen. What you do is just keep moving the screen forward. So forward. If you've read all the licensing information, if you want, select forward, and then type your name in, and give yourself a password. I'll just give a simple password so I can change it later. Then click forward, and then you'll be given the date. You can check that if you want. I just want to get forward again. At the bottom there. Okay, just give it a second. You can read that if you want. I generally don't send, and then it will continue with the final steps of installation. Okay, so when you're back to the Fedora screen, you will that's your name that you wrote in as your admin. Put your password in and sign in. At this point, you'll now be running off the USB stick, so you can know that because your name will be in the top right hand corner, and that is you completely installed with Fedora 17.